Join me in welcoming John Nimmo. Hey, John, how you doing today?
Man, fantastic. Incredible, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing good today. Yeah, it's Memorial Day. We've got the launch of your book. What could be better?
Yeah, Memorial Day. It's what a great holiday it's been. I don't know where you are. The weather where I am is perfect today. So we've been outside getting some sun and I can't wait to talk to you about the book though. It's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 75 and sunny here in Southern California. You couldn't order a more perfect day. Light breeze, I mean, it's like you write to God and you say, "Dear Lord, could I please have this exact day?" And he gave it to us. So all right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
tell us first a little bit about you and your background so people know who you are and where you're
Wow.
coming from.
So how far back would you like to go? I guess in my business life, I started I was an IBM rep in St. Louis in the 80s, 85, 86. I ended up homeless living in University City in a 1971 Mercury. Um, and then most people want to know about the recovery from all of that. Like, how did you rebuild after being homeless, right? And it's a long story, but I've had a very exciting management business career for 44 years. I've started in sales, I've been in management. Now I own my own leadership development and consulting corporation company. And I've struggled my entire life with procrastinating, kicking the can down the road, lollygagging, not taking immediate action. And when I look back on my life, I think that was probably the premier characteristic of mine that cost me lots of dollars, lots of time, relationships, all kinds of things in my life, and so that's why I wrote the book. Why wait? A leader's perspective on procrastination. So that's a little bit of the background.
Great. I love it. The book is so amazing and it's just filled full of a whole bunch of fun stuff. So I'm going to ask you the most unfair question of the whole interview. All right. Are you ready?
Well, thank you
It's
for
kind of
that.
like
Yeah,
I'm
go
going to
ahead.
ask you which of your children is the most favorite. No, actually, but I am going to ask you what's your favorite part of the book?
Oh, my favorite part of the book. Well, actually, if I were to say that, I would have to narrow it down to two things. Chapter one. Of course, I tell my story in the preface, the introduction a little bit, but chapter one is about courage. And there's a story in chapter one about a friend of mine who's a physician. And without going too far into the story, it's really about what he goes through in telling someone that they only have a very short time to live. I happened to be in the room when all of that was taking place. And, there's no opportunity for him in that situation to procrastinate and put things off, right? And so any change that we want to have in our lives requires us to have courage, and it's within us if we will take the time in the incubation period to incubate, fertilize, culture our own courage, awaken it within us. It's amazing the things that we can do. And those would include eliminating procrastination in our life. And I think that's probably one of my favorite chapters. The second favorite chapter is in unit 2 about, what to do about, we all know we procrastinate, why we do it, and then what do we do about it? And the chapter in chapter 2 is about forgiveness. And we have to forgive our past, let go of the guilt from previous procrastination issues that we've had, whether that was a hard conversation with our teenager, whether it was a lack of asking for a raise, lack of asking for a promotion, any hard conversation, making excuses for not making sales calls in business. We really have no excuse or alibi when it comes to that, except we have to forgive ourselves to move forward. So I think in any endeavor in our life of, I'm in the self-development, self-improvement, business development lane, so to speak. I think that those two things are a requirement. We have to have courage, and we have to be willing to look and forgive ourselves of former failures.
That is so big because it's so easy to get stuck in that if I had only.
Yeah.
And then you just live the rest of your life wishing that your life was not the life that you actually have.
Yeah. Yeah. I quote Think and Grow Rich a lot in the book. And one of the things that about that book is it's not Wish and Grow Rich, right? It's Think and Grow Rich. So I'm a big fan of Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. But some of those principles are uniform. They're universal principles in business and in life. And so I hope the book is geared to take your life, my life, anyone who reads the book, and make their life better. Give them clarity on direction and how to get where they're going, and eliminate some of the bad habits that we all have, right? So let's get on with it. Why wait?
So why do we procrastinate? We all know we shouldn't, and yet we still end up choosing it. Why do we do it?
Oh, there's multiple reasons. Competing interests, perfectionism, the psychology of it. Until there was no research psychologically into procrastinating until 1984. Scientists never really thought, they attributed procrastinating to laziness or a lack of motivation. But there really is some deep-seated things within us that make us all procrastinate. Fear. What kind of fears do we have? How do we seek perfectionism and put things off because we feel like we may not be able to do something perfectly? We set these standards for ourselves. And very often when it comes to putting things off, lollygagging, kicking the can down the road, not engaging immediately, it happens because we have this fear in us that we won't be able to measure up. I won't be able to meet the standard that's expected of me, and so I'll just put it off. As if, when we pick it up, we're going to be a different person a week from now, or 3 days from now, or 4 months from now. Whenever we pick it up, it's as if, well, if I put it off, I'll be a different person then, right? No, we're really not. It just, easy things become hard, and hard things become harder when we procrastinate.
That's a good way of looking at it. So we put it off, and all we end up is just a little bit older.
Well, and the surprising thing that I'm learning and have learned through the research in the book was that it's not about us that procrastination has its effects on. It affects our families, our relationships, our ability to network, our business relationships. It affects all of those around us because I put something off. And we have to have a degree of empathy for others that encourages us to take immediate action, not because of I might fail, but the consequences that I'm going to delve out onto other people by my own action or inaction, so to speak.
That's where our poor wives then end up the real victims of our procrastination.
Well, and that's true. That's really true. I think in the book I point that out a lot. I talk about how our own inaction affects the lives of other people.
So a person needs to get the book. They're going to need to get it to get all of the tips. But what's one thing that a person just listening to this interview could do today to begin to start the process of moving rather than procrastinating?
Okay, so I have this one of my philosophies is reduce it to the ridiculous, right? So let's take your teenager, normal hard conversation that, let's say it's about sex, for example, and we need to have that as a parent, we need to have that preteen discussion. And for some of us, that's really hard. It's difficult, right? So how do we reduce that conversation down into its lowest common denominator? And I love how we can ask questions to initiate a conversation. So it really doesn't have to be that difficult. And as you know, when we attack something, it seems like a mountain. And then looking back after we've done it, it was really just a molehill, really. It wasn't that big, right? We all have that in our lives where we feared something great was going to happen and it never did happen. But when we look back, it was easy. And I think that's where you have to go. You have to reduce things down to what I call the ridiculous. So can you begin the conversation by just starting out easy and having a conversation, say, hey, I've been thinking about this. I was wondering how you feel about it, right? And don't attack it from the mountain standpoint. And perhaps that needs to be a conversation over 2 or 3 meetings. Maybe it's a 3 5-minute conversations as opposed to one big hour-long conversation, right? So let's reduce it down so that we make others feel comfortable in just having the discussion. And we can do that a lot by asking, reframe our statements instead of dictating, and reframe them into questions. How questions? Why questions? I noticed, Steve, that you did that. What were you thinking? Tell me how you were thinking when you did that, for example, right? And let them carry the dialogue instead of me dictating the dialogue. So just one example.
Oh, that's good. It would totally change the dynamic with our teen, especially if they didn't then say, yeah, every 5-minute conversation with dad is an hour.
Well, I learned a long time ago, my son and I just got back from a long journey, and I had to seek some counseling when he was a teenager. And one of the things they said, it's like, when have you asked his opinion about your work or anything that you're doing, or about, as young men, as in particular, probably women too, young girls, they want to feel valued. They want to feel, they're seeking their independence and they want their opinion to be valued. How do we do that? And I'm a type A personality. I'm I'm go, 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 go. And I had to stop and just say, my son's name is Garrett. And I would say, hey, Garrett, if this were your situation, how would you handle it? What do you think I should do here? And that creates a dialogue. And it just the fact that you asked the question values him as a human being, right? And so I'm big on asking questions, and just a little hint and a tip there.
Love it. So if a person wants to go deeper with you, how can they get in contact with you?
Sure. Leadershiplived.com is my website. My email is johnjohn@leadershiplived.com, all one word. You can visit the website. I'd love to go deep. I'm an executive coach. I do some coaching. I'm an author. I speak. And I'm really not that difficult, but I am going to ask hard questions. So, when you want to go deeper into procrastinating, you want to resolve issues you have in procrastinating or things that you've done in the past. All we really need is for somebody to shine a light on us, right? I'm a big believer in coaching. I know, being a former athlete, coaches see things in us that we can't see in ourselves. And that's important, especially in procrastination. So you ask the questions like, I know that you told me, Steve, that you did this and you put that off. How are you feeling? What was your initial response when you were asked to do that task, right? So let's get beyond the surface and go deeper into developing courage, having some forgiveness for things that we've done in the past that we feel guilty for, that we carry with us. We have to let that go. And so, leadershiplived.com. I'm sorry, I get so excited and carried away about it, but leadershiplived, all one word.com. You can reach me there.
Well, that was good stuff. I appreciate it. And the book is called Why Wait? A Leader's Perspective on Procrastination by John Nimmo. You can get it today for free. Let me, in fact, drop the link here into the comments, so anybody that wants to get it can get the book. John, give us one last word before we go here on why wait, a leader's perspective on procrastination.
All right. So most of us think that taking action is the thing that we put off. John F. Kennedy said there are costs to inaction. And very often we don't see them. I talk about that quote by John F. Kennedy in the book a lot. There are costs to not taking action. When you look back at Kodak, Blockbuster Video, Lehman Brothers, all the Fortune 500 companies that failed, most of them failed due to their inaction, not because they were doing things. All of them had financial statements. All of them had P&Ls. All of them had the paperwork that we think you need to have as a business owner. But failure does not depend on paperwork. It depends on action or inaction. And I would just say, taking action has a cost. There are risks, but inaction also has a risk. Let's discover what those are.
Love it. John, thanks so much for spending some time with me here on the show today.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Steve, very much.